Welcome back to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. And we told you we're going to keep sharing life experiences in hopes that someone will connect to start their journey to healing. Today, we want to welcome Dr. Scott Robinson, and boy, does he have a testimony to tell. Dr. Robinson, if you could come up and introduce yourself. And then, as y'all know, City Sid is going to kick off that first question. Welcome, Dr. Scott.
All right. For those that don't know my story, I was a 17-year-old, just got a car, was a used car, in 1976. And I was given that, and I would have a near-death experience. Then I'd die and end up in the morgue, and then I would die again on the operating table, short. And as a result, I would then go on and learn simple techniques to help myself heal. I'd become a chiropractor. I'd practice in Israel, Belgium, United States, Mexico, and around the world. And then I began helping people heal themselves. And with that, I wrote a book finally when the angels gave me the green light, and it's called There Are No Lines in Heaven. And that's how I got invited here with Demetria and Sid to share my story in full. And when you're ready, I'm ready to go. Nice to have you.
Well, thank you again for being here with us, Dr. Scott. As we do with all of our guests, we like to start off at the beginning of your journey. We always like to see if we can draw parallels from, adolescent years to where you are now in your story. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up. What was your home structure like? Relationships with family, and if you experienced any trauma in those formative years.
Oh my gosh. First of all, we are a mixed family. We have an African-American side of the family, and we have a Chinese-American side of the family. And we grew up in the town of Paterson, New Jersey, which is filled with immigrants. And it was an amazing area. We lived in an area of a Native American burial site on 8th Avenue and 27th in Paterson, New Jersey. It was a hill. And a lot of people in my neighborhood had sightings. As a matter of fact, our house was haunted. And so I grew up talking to spirits coming out of my closet. And they would tell me things, and I would hear it. My parents, especially my grandmother, were very upset. What does this kid know? I went to the worst school and the worst high school in all of Paterson, which was rated next to last in education for the entire state of New Jersey. It was not easy growing up in that area. It was very wealthy on one side by Eastside Park, and the rest of everybody else, other places. So I grew up there, had to walk back and forth to school. Those were the days you walked 2 to 3 miles to school. Nobody dropped you off, and you went to school. One of the things that I noticed early is I had the gift to be able to read people's signatures and tell them what kind of personality they were. And being a mixed kid in this school, but most people saw me as a white kid, it wasn't easy going to an all-black Hispanic school. And having these gifts actually helped me transition and be I'll call it more popular kid. Now, I'm really nerdy. I was on the high end of the class, and I also had the ability to bet. Now, I lived in a neighborhood where betting was a normal thing, and I began to tell people in my teenage years how to bet on football games, since one of these kids in the area was his father was the guy with the go-between between him and the mob. They would bet $1 on a game, and I would tell them who was going to win by what score. Well, that made me popular, but the one thing is nobody ever said thank you by giving me anything for this gift, so I stopped using it. Popular or not, I was going to use my brain for other things. And it was then I went to a Catholic school because the education was better than the grammar school and the high school. And I went there and my education soared. I needed the extra discipline. My father was in the military. He was an Air Force officer. And my mom used to make the engines for Dad's airplanes. Matter of fact, my brother would go on also in the Air Force, and he would be involved in the defense contract industry, and he would make things that go boom in the night. Long story short, I couldn't wait to grow up and get the heck out of there. I wanted to go in the military, just like Dad and my brother. I figured it was a way out and I could travel. I'm a Sagittarian, and I wanted to go see the world. So I got accepted to the academy. In this case, I had to make a choice between the Merchant Marine Academy and the U.S. Naval Academy because I wanted to be a little different than my dad. I could have gotten to the Air Force Academy because my dad was Air Force, but I wanted to be a Navy pilot. So I was going to take one or the other. And here is how, as I was growing up with these unusual gifts, history changed everything. I was prepared to go into the military when I had my first near-death experience. Mom, Dad bought me a used car. Dad worked in the car industry in the Bronx in New York. And they bought me a good used car, 68 Mercury Montego, big not bucket seats. These were bench seats with a 304 under the hood or 302 under the hood. And that car hummed. But on my first journey, taking my friend Lou up to Lake Opakon in New Jersey to go fishing, things would change. I would pick him up at 5 a.m. and I would leave my body. So, Sid, I know.
Can I catch you right there, Dr. Scott?
Say again?
Can I catch you right there? We don't want to do it too much. I got more questions. I want to go back a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. I want to go because we've had quite a few guests on here that have said they had gifts. As a child, I want to ask, when did your gift started and did it scare you?
No, it never scared me. It scared my family, especially my grandmother. It was about 5 years old. I began to tell people when they were going to die. Gift number one. I could talk to the other side, and I knew when people were going to die. Here was the gift. I had the ability to draw. It came naturally. It would disappear as I got into my teenage years, but I could draw a person's face. I could draw historical events and tell you everything that was going on, but I could tell you who was going to die. And I would usually draw these pictures 3 days before their death. By the time this happened for the third time, my grandmother and mother both asked me to stop drawing pictures of anyone I knew. So that was, by the time I stopped doing it, it was about 12 years old. And then, of course, the gift that turned on after that was the gift of being able to determine who was going to win a football game or not. That would make me popular as a teenager. But the first one was to be able to tell people when they were going to die. The other thing is the historical events. I began to tell my parents and my grandmother about, I'm not who I am in this life. That's not me. I don't recognize that guy in the mirror. That was another person. I was taller and I'm better looking, and I knew other things. And I started to tell my family about past historical events. They said, we don't know anything about that. There's nothing written in a book about that. And then suddenly some of the stories I would tell would be found out. The next thing that would happen is that I would make up words that did not exist in the current vocabulary in the dictionary. Gription was the first word. Well, today the word gription is in the dictionary. It would pop in my head. And it said it's the ability for the tires or anything else to grip the road or the ground. And that's the definition now. And then names of people. Before the current leader of China, Deng Xiaoping, came to be, I told my aunt, who was Chinese, that there's going to be a new person in charge, Deng Xiaoping. Now, this was years before, because he's been in control many, many years now in China. And that name didn't mean anything to anybody till that day. And then they went, uh-oh, how did this kid know that? I don't know. Things like that would pop in my head. I would meet people and start to tell them about their lives. That started actually before my near-death experience. But the one that freaked out the family was I could tell people who were going to die. Now, Demetria, Sid, If you ever had anybody and you didn't want to know what time they were going home, I would blurt it out, and it didn't make people happy. Today, when I work with chronically and seriously ill individuals, I'm not allowed to tell them when it's time to go home. But this gift just turned on by itself. And this was one of the first gifts that I was aware of. I also knew that there were spirits not only in our house, but in our neighborhood. It seemed like everybody had an infestation of spirits because the house that we lived in and in the neighborhood that we lived in on 8th Avenue and 27th Street in Paterson, New Jersey, used to be a Native American burial site. And almost everybody had visitations, things that would happen. I remember going across the street to the Threet family, Kenny Threet and his family. And I said, gee, Kenny, I saw your grandmother upstairs above the front door looking out, waving at me. And he said, my grandmother wasn't in the house, and she definitely wasn't upstairs. So everybody knew there were some unusual things that would go on in our neighborhood, and I was able to see it and hear it. I do remember coming home from high school one day, and I kept thinking the dog must be upstairs. I keep hearing like noise and footsteps and stuff like that. And I turned around, the dog was next to me, and he was whimpering. And I went, uh-oh, something's upstairs. So we had stuff that used to live upstairs, and we could hear it, we could see it, and I definitely knew what was there by the feeling of it. Evil has a cold feeling. Good is a warm feeling. And the angels, that was my next gift. The ability to see, hear, and smell the angels. It is an awesome sight and an awesome feel. The negative guys, they stink like ashtrays and they look like shadows. The good guys have this ability to smell like the most beautiful fragrance of dragon's blood and lemon blossoms, throw in a few strawberries. It's actually delicious. It's heavenly. And angels come forward towards me from this perspective. The bad guys come from behind me, and they never approach you directly. So these were things that I began to learn early on in my life, even before the near-death experience, and they became stronger after the first and second near-death experiences would occur. So, Demetria, hopefully that would answer the question as to what were some of these gifts, and that was only the beginning. They kept getting stronger, lasting longer, and the next thing I know, I was telling people about past, present, and future lives, and the fact that you are more than who you are. So, Sid, it's your turn.
Yes.
What's up? What question you have that you'd like to ask that we can get into dealing with the first and second near-death experiences?
Yes. I do want to ask before getting into that, as a child and you're having, these, you're pretty much stepping into your power here. When was the significant moment that you, realized that, these things weren't quote unquote normal, or, that somebody kind of made you feel like the other, or that, you just kind of came into consciousness that everybody doesn't experience these things?
Age 5. When it started to turn on, I noticed I was never in anyone's photographs. You know how you have family photographs? I was never in any of them except one, when I was wearing an old Navy suit. Kids used to have little costumes that they wore. Today it's Princeton Kings and stuff. I was wearing a Navy costume with a little hat and things. At that point, it's the only picture I ever found of myself. I knew I was different. People stayed away from me. This was not easy for a kid, but I also didn't really want to be with a lot of kids. Kids played and did things that were rough and hurt me and would be mean to me. So I didn't really care being by myself. I actually liked it. I had the ability to start to predict when people would get hurt, killed, or there'd be accidents, especially aircraft or airplane or car accidents. And so people actually were afraid of me. And anytime they gave me like the basketball to play with, I was not coordinated. I remember one day going up for a layup and accidentally drove right through, my body went right through the neighbor's garage, and they would never have me over. The father said, no, that kid is dangerous. He breaks things every time he comes over here. So I never went back to playing sports, and I would consider it like a pariah in some cases, but I actually liked being left alone. I would talk to beings that nobody could see. The kids thought me weird. I would look up the word weird, and the definition said, third one down, spiritually unique and different. And I realized that was me. Kids only wanted to come and talk to me when they wanted something that they couldn't get normally. And my perspective of God, the creator, was a little bit different than churches or synagogues. Yeah, I had to go to synagogue. I grew up in a Jewish family, black side, Chinese side, but had a Jewish family, a Buddhist family, a Christian family, all tied together. And my perspective of what God was very similar to my grandmother, Martha Hawkins. And she also had gifts. And my mom, born on Halloween, had gifts. And so it was not abnormal in my family to be aware of certain things. People outside my family and my brothers and sisters, they would give me a hard time. Like, he's weird. Wouldn't want to deal with him. So I wasn't really welcome on the sports teams because I was a detriment to some of their sports. And when I was in chemistry class, I remember blowing up the laboratory. That did not go over well when nylon was floating in the ceiling for weeks after that. So they didn't want me around flames because things would explode. They didn't want me around hot water because that could be detrimental too. And they definitely didn't want me around when they were making a fire, like, barbecue. It's like, go in there. Or stay away from the gasoline in the car engine. We'll fix the car. You go inside. But they also knew that I had the ability to learn things tremendously. And I would start to tell them things about history that nobody else seemed to know of. And it wasn't written in the current history books. It would be later on that some of these history things, events, would actually be written down. But they were like, how did you know it? I lived it. And for somebody that was brought up in multicultural, multi-religion, and multi-ethnic backgrounds, I was unique and different. I would really learn to appreciate myself, as after my near-death experiences, I would meet people like myself and actually find a home where other people could understand me. The fact that I was multi-religious and multi-ethnic also had a different point of view. I was aware of things, and people were like, how do you know about that? Because my grandmother's a black lady from Alabama. I know that because my Chinese side of the family are from mainland China, what used to be called Manchukuo or Manchuria. I have a Japanese side of the family as well because of that. So knowing these things, I knew I was different. I know people gave me a hard time, but it almost, now looking back on it, it almost feels like a different life, especially before near-death experiences and after near-death experiences. See, the first near-death experience occurred 3 days after high school graduation when my car and I were destroyed in an accident, and I ended up waking up in the morgue. The second one happened when I was on the operating table, and I came out of my body. And this was at USC Medical Center in downtown Los Angeles. And I would wake up and float above my body, talk to the angels and say, can I go home now? And they say, no, you haven't fulfilled your purpose and missions in life. And they said, would you kindly remind me what my mission and purpose in life is? And they said, you will learn a simple technique to heal yourself and share that with other people. I'd come back and tell mom and dad, and they were like, that's nice, son, until stuff started to happen around me. Originally, I went to school, became a chiropractor, and then a medical examiner, and I worked overseas in Belgium and Israel, Canada and Mexico. And then I began to have these gifts turn on. And the first gift that turned on after that happened, well, one of my last chiropractic patients was a young lady. And in those days, I had gowns on the female patients. And I was working on her back, and I was just finishing up. And a thought came to me, I'm going to have my menstrual cycle. That's the thought that came into me. I went, I'm not going to have a menstrual cycle. So I bent down to the young lady's ear and I said, you going to have your menstrual cycle? And she said, no, Dr. Robinson, I'm not due for another week. So I helped her close up the gown. She got up, she went to the bathroom, changed her clothes. Meanwhile, I went in the office, worked with other people, and she came to me and she pulled me aside and said, guess what, Dr. Robinson? I said, what? She said, I just had my menstrual cycle. So I knew that another gift had turned on. I now, through touching people, could tell them everything that was going on in their earthly body. This gift would get even bigger because now I can do this without actually touching somebody. Like I have stories to tell about Demetria and Sid, about what I see and feel around your auric fields. And these gifts kept getting stronger. And the more I do these gifts keep turning on, which is awesome. I just think I'm on the right path because God keeps opening up my ability to connect my pineal gland to the source of all that is. Oh, I have a question for you, dear ladies.
Go ahead.
All right. A new interesting study came out of the National Institutes of Health on near-death experiences. They could differentiate between a near-death experience, an out-of-body experience, and something else. And one of those things was dimethyltryptamine. Well, that's what happens to your pineal gland. Your dimethyltryptamine goes way up after a near-death experience, and it doesn't come back down. That's how they differentiate between a true near-death experience and a non-near-death experience. Here's a very interesting thing that came out with it, though. Dimethyltryptamine and the pineal gland depend on melanin. Look at your skin and tell me what you have on your skin.
Melanin.
A lot of it, right? Do you know that black folks, especially those that come from Africa, the darker you are, the more melanin you have, the more melanin in your dimethyltryptamine levels of your pineal gland? Do you know that white folks, pure white folks, Europeans, their pineal gland will age more rapidly because they have less color in their pineal gland and in their skin. And the one thing that changes with a person of different ethnic backgrounds is they've got more melanin in them, and their near-death experience pumps up their pineal gland, and they become more spiritual. Differentiation between spiritual and religion. Religion requires spirituality to exist. Spirituality does not need religion. But look what's happening in, especially right now, Africa, because I did some interviews in Africa. What's happening? The amount of spiritualism and faith is just going up. And right now they're having civil wars in different parts. Muslims and Christians are fighting with each other. It's not even being discussed anywhere about what's happening to people. But it's their pineal gland that has the ability to connect them to God. Therefore, people of color have the ability to connect to God better than the average Anglican, unless they're mixed or had a near-death experience. Very interesting, is it not? This is a study that just came out. So if you're African American, you have a better ability to connect spiritually. And I can tell you from my grandmother and my aunts and uncles and cousins on that side of the family, man, were they spiritual. They got into God. They got into religion. They were something else. To watch them at the church when I used to go with my grandmother to church. Whoa. And they were in the Methodist Episcopal Church in Chicago in Cabrini Green, which was at one time the worst neighborhood in the world, but became one of the yuppiest places for African Americans in the city of Chicago, especially when Mayor Washington was in power. And before Obama would have his assistant work for Mayor Washington. And when Obama is president, she goes from being a mayor's assistant to chief of staff for Obama. And of course, he lived there.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say something real quick. And I'm going to say, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And I don't want this to be about me, but I want to say this because a lot of what you said, and I never really thought about it because I have a gift too. And when I was younger, I experienced some things and I talk about it, and God has given, I have a gift. But when I almost lost my life due to domestic violence, when my ex-husband brutally beat and stabbed me 6 times, when I was in the room, I seen the devil and I seen God, and the devil looks like the Grim Reaper, and it's like a shadow, like you literally see on TV. That is what he looks. And I try to explain this to people, and God is a ball of light, and it's so many different colors. I really can't explain it. And I tell people, I've seen this before when I've experienced certain things, but when I was near death, it was powerful. Like the energy was powerful. But what I tell folks also is people can believe this or not believe this, but I'm going to confirm. God put a shield over me. It was like a bubble, but I felt my soul come out of my body. It was like a tug of war, my soul coming in and out of my body. So,
you had no conscious ability to choose, but somebody was fighting for you to keep you.
God was.
Yeah, the likelihood Michael the Archangel was probably there by your side saying, no, she's ours, not yours. And the Grim Reaper.
I used to have a chain and it's missing and I've been looking for it. And it was Michael Archangel after I got off the fact. And I used to, everywhere I went, I had the, because he's a protection. He's a travel protection, what people don't know. And I wore this chain everywhere. And I think someone took it, to be honest with you. Like I put it down, but I would not
borrowed it permanently.
Yeah, permanently, yeah. And I would not take this necklace off of me. And when I did, I think my mistake was taking it off my neck.
But you have Michael with you, just so you know.
Yes.
And then the one thing about Michael, he's the biggest, baddest angel in town. Don't mess with Michael. We had another psychic healer who was working on some things, doing a talk. And she said to the angel, she said, you're not supposed to stand there. You're supposed to go over there. And a voice came out and said, I'm Michael. I can stand anywhere I want.
Mm-hmm.
You don't mess with Michael. Nobody messes with Michael. And the group that I work with, we have Michael the Archangel, Jesus the Christ, also known as Yeshua ben Yosef Barbas, and a being we call Bruno. But he actually said, that's not my real name. That's what they call me on earth. And could be Raphael, the healing angels. So I work with some big dudes. And the one thing, when you choose which way you're going to work, that's the only way you're going. And yes, evil will throw everything at you possibly can. The higher up you go towards God, but you get bigger angels to protect you. Interesting other story. Everybody who works for evil gets a half of an angel. Everybody who works for God gets 2 or more archangels. So when you work for the dark side, and there are 10% of this planet that voluntarily work for the dark side, okay, stay away from them. 10% work voluntarily for the good and God. Hang out with those folks. Everybody else in the middle, fair game. 70% of those people won't be able to wake up. 30% will, but of the 30% who could wake up, only 2% will. The process, Demetria, is you've already started the wake-up procedure, the same as Sid couldn't be with you if she wasn't already a worthy child of God. And this is the one thing they teach me from the other side. If you're on this planet, there's no color there's multiple colors in heaven, but there's no color in the line basis, no religion in the line basis. That's a human thing, good versus evil. Just know, choose good and God, because you're only going to hear things from 2 sides, the good and God or from the dark side. Choose the good side, because I don't know about you, but if I have to come back here, it isn't going to be for the dark side. It's going to be because God says to me, we got a job for you and you got to do this because you have the strength to do it. When you start getting stronger, evil will not want to mess with you. And this is the biggest thing you learn. Nobody will mess with you unless they come from good and God. So that's one of the things I teach my patients. A lot of these people have been written off by the medical community. We teach about the power of prayer and healing. We teach this thing called Einstellung, tuning into the source, asking for help and healing, what they sent me back to teach. Third thing that we teach, pushing faint matter, negative energy away from people. Bob Monroe started that with the Monroe Institute, and I learned it from one of the other teachers. And they actually, their first people that they taught was the CIA, how to move things, bend things, push things away from you, remote viewing. That's what we teach people. Then how to eliminate negative emotions that don't serve you and using verbal frequencies for healing. Now, I have a lot of other things that I do, but those are the main things that we work with. But one of the initial gifts, you had asked me about gifts, is that when I began to step in front of a person who's been written off by the medical society and left for dead, basically, I could see their auric field. Like I was telling both you ladies, I can see things around you. And the first thing I saw around this one woman was she'd been abused. That's real easy to pick up. Abuse and attack, harm, that shows up in your auric field really big. It's like a scar and it's dark. And I said, you were abused by 3 men, one more than the other 2. What did they force you to do? And the lady said, well, they diagnosed me with cancer, and they told me that if I didn't take chemotherapy, especially this one doctor, that they were going to revoke my privileges from my insurance company and I wouldn't have any insurance coverage. So I took the chemotherapy, and I regretted it and had resentment and anger towards them ever since. I said, it's against the law to do that. They can't threaten you. They can only not let you be treated. And actually, that's the thing. She said, well, I've been holding on to this anger, rage, and resentment since then. And I said, you want me to clear that emotion out of you? She said, no, I'd rather have the other doctor work with me and clear out the emotions. I said, that's fine. So as these gifts build up, and Demetria, you got gifts, but you also have some stuff in you that we need to clear out. Sid, you also have some gifts, but you're carrying a burden on or around you that both need to be let go of. And this is what I show people. Probably abuse is the strongest thing that will show up in a person's auric field. You can't miss it. It blocks people out like a shadow, and it must be yanked out, pulled out, removed, deleted, or melted, but it has to be pulled out for someone to heal. You cannot be on this planet if you're not a worthy child of God. And that's the next thing. People are either grieving or in resentment, and they don't think themselves worthy because they've been abused verbally and put down. Well, guess what? That's not allowed, and it's not acceptable. You must erase that from your system. You must realize if you're here, you are a worthy child of God, and evil's messing with you. Now, this is the funny thing that most people don't know. Earth is a training planet, a schooling planet. It is not a prison planet. God gave this planet to evil and said, do with my children what you want. It's their job to master this reality. But when they master this reality, you got to get away from them. First one to really do it was a being named Jesus. And now we're supposed to follow in his footsteps and do the same thing. Michael the Archangel, Bruno, whatever it is, the angels that you work with, you must take your power back. This life is about mastering it, enduring, persevering, and overcoming. And that's the biggest thing that I come across. Abuse from this life and even abuse from previous lifetimes. That yes, you're only this being once, whoever you are. Sid, you're only Sid once. Demetria, you're only Demetria once. But that soul goes on forever. And you come to a point where we are going to bring heaven to earth in the 5th dimension with it. And we're going to grow and bring heaven to earth here rather than have the us kick butt. Evil's going to leave. We need to be able to master this reality, endure, persevere, and overcome it. And whatever we come in with, whatever challenge, since there's no lines in heavens, there's no real color in heavens, there's no religion in heavens, there is no priority in heaven where this person has this thing to go for the other. Everybody's equal. We come to earth to live out our divine reality and bring it here. We have more diversity on this planet than any other planet in the solar system, universe, or galaxy. It's the thing is, though, we're in the worst neighborhood in the world, in the solar system, in the galaxy, in this part of the universe. But we came here to learn at the highest level. College, education, spirituality. God sends us to this place to be able to master it and overcome it. And only the worthiest of children can come to this reality. And the worse off you had it as a kid, the more abuse you had, the more challenges, the greater the strength and growth you're going to have, and you will regain back power you did not know exist. And evil's going to have to turn and run away from you. So,
yeah.
And the other thing,
Sid wants to ask you a question, but I'm gonna say I agree because this
all right, go ahead.
This is the purpose of what we do is to share resources because it started from my life traumas from childhood to adulthood. And that's why I'm so thankful for Sid, because God brought Sid and I together. So a lot of what you're saying, and we met, it was the strain. We talk about this all the time, but he connected us, and this is the power within. It's going through that, because I'm going through a healing journey. So
right, and in the process, you're both like spiritual sisters. And in the Jewish language, in Hebrew, this would be mishpacha. You are mishpacha, extended family from the heart. Mm-hmm. And it's that knowingness that you somehow link. You know that you have a mission to work together. So think of yourself as spiritual sisters who know.
That's my sister. I love her.
Yeah.
I love her.
chances are you probably were sisters in a previous lifetime. Mm-hmm. And as a result, you have similar scars that you carry in your auric field. But when you have a healing, Demetra, she then can resound and understand it. And when Sid has an issue, you both can then link together your past similarities and grow from it. And therefore, you don't have to go through what Sid went through, and Sid doesn't have to go through what you went through. In another form, you're sharing those experiences so they can help not only each other, but other people. And your particular whole show is about awakening to what your purpose is. That's the other thing people ask me. What's my mission and purpose, Dr. Robinson? Oh, that's easy. One of the easiest things. Number one, master your reality, endure, persevere, and overcome it. Number two, help. Help one another.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Sid. Go ahead, Sid. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So tell us a little bit about the circumstances around your first near-death experience.
Okay. Mom and Dad, like I said, Dad was in the car industry, and for my high school graduation, they were buying me a car. It was a used car, 1968 Mercury Montego, all white, little pinstripes, red on the side, black Landau roof. They don't even have Landau roofs anymore. And they had red seats, red bench seats, perfect for a high school kid. Not in the dating season. I mean, that was great. And I went out to go fishing with my friend Lou. When I went to pick him up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I got back up onto Route 80, and the last thing I remembered was seeing the sign, downtown Patterson, next exit, and I looked down and felt strange, and I could see through my hands. I said, if this is death, there's nothing to be afraid of. According to the police report, the New Jersey State Highway Patrol, they said I had driven 23 miles from that point to where the accident happened. And the only thing that saved my life is my friend Lou was in the right front seat. And as the car got hit and spun, and I came out of the safety belt, spun and went from the driver's seat into the windshield and the dashboard and hit my head on the little car handle. You know, the thing you grab to get in and out of the car, left a dent in my head. And I woke up. The next thing I knew, I was underneath the dashboard. The door opened up. I went, how did I get here? I fell out. I landed on the boot of a New Jersey Super Troopers black boot. And I heard, he's DOA. And I went out again. Came up out above my body. He'd be the cop that actually pronounced me dead, and I ended up in the morgue because of it. Came out of my body. I floated above, went up above the earth, and my angel appeared. And I knew he was my archangel, my protective angel. And he said, I got to turn you around before we go to heaven. I want you to tell me what you see. And he pointed me back towards the planet. And I saw streams of light coming out off the planet, some very thin and narrow, and some very thick, like a tree trunk. He said, do you know what those are? And I said, no. And he said, the thin ones are individual prayers coming up to God. He said, the thick ones are group prayers praying for the same thing. I went, oh, that's very interesting. He said, we got to go now. And I would go down this tunnel, and things would be speeding by me, like driving my car at 100 miles an hour, and everything was a blur. And I arrived at the gates of heaven, what people call the gates of heaven, and I met my grandfather, who I'm named for. He had died 2 years before, so I never met him in person, but I'd seen pictures of him. And he said, son, you can't stay here. You don't belong. you have to go back. But before you do, I have someone for you to meet. And he took me into a little room, which expanded once I got in there. And there were 3 beings in that room. 2 were facing me, and one with his back facing me, but he was facing these other beings. And as he turned around, and he was my height, I said, "Are you the being everybody calls Jesus?" And he said, "I'm called by many names, but because of your heritage, I will call you the Little Prince of Peace, and you can call me Big Brother." Well, it turns out I would find out later that I'm actually related to him. My mom's side of the family are Kohanim, or the Kohanim class, the priestly class, descended from Moses and Aaron. And, of course, so is Jesus, the line of David. Behind Jesus was a very big angel, and I recognized him immediately. I knew it was Michael. And to Michael's right and my left was another being. And as Jesus turned around and said, "I'll call you the Little Prince of Peace, and you can't stay here." And that being, the third angel, said, "You'll know who I am sometime into the future. But my name that they call me is not who I am." I figured he's another archangel. He said, "You will learn a simple technique to heal yourself and share that with other people." Then Jesus said, "You got to go now. We have to send you back." And I went, shoot. And just as I took my right fist and hit it on my left palm, I got drawn back into my body. Now, simultaneously, my parents are called by the same New Jersey super trooper and called and said, "Come identify your son's body. He's in the morgue at St. Joseph's Hospital." He didn't say he's dead. He said, "Come identify his body." My parents, my mom being a psychic born on Halloween baby, said to my dad, "Don't worry, it's all going to work out." He drove to the hospital, and my dad said, "Should we go into the emergency room exit?" She said, "No, I have this feeling, go around to the back." That's where the morgue was. So they parked in front of the morgue door, literally. There was a little portico, a little covering. They got out. They walked through the double doors. There was nobody sitting at the front desk. And they went down a dark hallway, and they saw a man pushing a body wearing scrubs. And they went to go ask this guy, "Where's my son's body?" As they got close, he vanished, just like that. My mom and dad looked at each other and said, "Where did he go?" And they thought maybe because the light is out and there was a door there, maybe he just left the body there just as they was pushing it into the refrigeration unit and walked out the door and went up the stairs. But they couldn't believe it. They was like, "Where'd he go? Just disappeared. How could he vanish for both of us?" And so they went, having nobody to talk to, in a dark hallway, and they pulled the shroud that was on a body off. And there was me. I sat up. "Mom, Dad, I met Grandpa. I met God." And they said, "Son, you had an accident. Come with us." And these gurneys are a little tall because they were pushing it into a refrigerated box. And as I got off, I went, "Oh, man, I got a bad headache." And thank goodness that light was out in the hallway because I wouldn't have been able to tolerate the light. They grabbed one arm, one elbow on one side, one elbow on the other side, and they walked me down the corridor, brought me through the double doors, opened the back door to my dad's Volkswagen because that's what he used to sell, Volkswagen, Porsche, Audi, Mercedes-Benz, put me in the back of the car. I laid down because I could not sit up. I wanted to vomit. Closed the door, and the next day they drove me to Montefiore Hospital where I would work with Dr. Barry Ludwig at Montefiore. I was supposed to work with his boss, but he wasn't available. Barry Ludwig had read about the near-death experience, and he had identified the fact that my dimethyltryptamine levels were they were off the charts. I had about 22% higher level of dimethyltryptamine coming from my pineal gland than normal. He said, "I think you had something that I can't explain." And he handed a book with my mother. He handed it to me. My mother agreed that I would read about Raymond Moody's near-death experiences, life after life. That was Dr. Moody was an MD who was studying to be a priest, and his boss had a near-death experience, and he learned from him and studied 3,000 near-death experiences. I would eventually go on to work with Dr. Moody and his wife, Cheryl, who come from Georgia. And I would have them on one of my first TV shows, and we would talk about the near-death experiences. So that was near-death experience number 1.
I wanted to ask while we're there, what was your reaction when you woke up in the morgue? Like, what would were you
Hallelujah. They didn't close the door on me because I would have freaked out. Those ice boxes are really small. They have you on the sliding bench thing. So they slide your body in there and the wheels go folding up and then they close the door like a refrigerator. The first thought that came to me was hallelujah. My parents got to me before they closed the door. I think I would have really started to scream if I had actually woken up inside the box. But as it was, they hadn't pushed me into it yet. So the first thought was, this is real for me. I don't know what you know, but as far as I'm concerned, this is a big illusion. The other thing, I really wasn't afraid. The most interesting thing happens when you talk to near-deathers. We have no sense of fear anymore. This is not death. This is not life. There's an illusion. This world is a really good illusion. And it is a freaky good illusion. God made such a great job making me believe that we live in a three-dimensional reality. No, this is the illusion. And when we die, it's not death at all. We go back to where we belong, our true natural state, the angelic spiritual being. This is an artificial state of density. Third dimension is really dense, and it's filled with evil and negativity. Remember, it was given to evil as a gift from God. Our bodies were given to us as a gift from God to endure, persevere, overcome, and master this reality. So you must understand this is a life of choice. It is a schooling planet where you will learn every moment of every day that you're earthly above and alive. When people ask me, how are you? I say, I am great to be alive. I'm great to be able to walk and breathe at the same time. I am so glad that I'm living here in this planet, in this country, even with all its diversity and its anger and rage. We're not Republican. We're not Democrat. We're not independent. We're not black. We're not white. We're not Hispanic. We're not Chinese. We are all children of God, and we are wearing different uniforms. And each of these gives us an experience that we chose prior to coming to this reality. We are in an 80-year cycle, in a 26,000-year cycle, in a world that keeps repeating. The only thing is this time, many of us are tired of this repetition. This 80-year cycle, major warfare, happens every 80 years. American Revolution, American Civil War, World War II, and now what we're going to come into. Do you want to see our world destroyed by stupidity and anger and rage and evil? Or do we want to wake up and smell the divine roses and bring heaven to earth? I not only can help people realize what's wrong with them and how they must do what they do to heal themselves, get rid of this emotion, but we have an opportunity, unlike previous time periods, this 26,000-year cycle, to break the cycle now and forever, bring the fifth dimension to earth, get rid of the evil off the planet, and bring Mother Earth and heaven to one, where we live much longer lives. You tell me, ladies, do you want World War III or do you want to bring heaven to earth? You guys tell me.
Heaven to earth.
You got it. We want to bring heaven to earth. We are not separate individual beings. We may look different because the book is written called There Are No Lines in Heaven, because everybody is welcome in heaven. And you want to see some unusual colors of some of the angels? You talk about black? Nah. Black, unlike black. I mean, you can't see anything other than black. But most people don't know that the actual color black is actually the unity of all colors, not the absence of. Albinos are white. And there's no such thing as a white person, by the way. You want to see a white person? You can have an albino black person, albino Hispanic person. You can have an albino Chinese person. White is devoid of all color. Black has all the colors mixed together. And that is what people don't realize, the richness of our reality. We have more species that live in this world, both human and otherwise, and then beings from other worlds who come to visit this world, because there's no dichotomy between good and evil on their reality. Are we going to wake up and smell the divine roses and choose to work together as a family? Or are we going to bring another third world war?
Hopefully not. See it as a question. Sorry.
We good. So we are getting close to time, but I do want to get kind of a short synopsis of the second near-death experience. And if at that point, you noticed a pattern, or, you felt like that it may happen again. Tell us a little bit about
the third time is probably going to be a charm. I may not be able to come back and tell you, but at that point. But the second near-death experience, I was already working as a medical examiner for the state of California Division of Workers' Compensation. I was also a pilot. Like my dad, I went back and learned how to fly airplanes. And I was flying a Beech Sierra C-24R, which was a retractable landing gear aircraft. I was practicing touch and goes up in Mount Arrowhead, Lake Arrowhead area, because I had high altitude training to go to a high altitude place. I was going to have to fly up from Long Beach, California, track down the person up above Sacramento, do my exam, come back the next morning, do the court work, present to the court and the judge what my findings were about this disabled person. Were they disabled or not? So I was practicing with my flight instructor, Lisa, before I would go on these long flights by myself. I would at least practice 2 hours for every 1 hour I was flying. And it was cold weather. It was December. I wanted to make sure that I could land and take off on a cold, wet runway that might be icy. And as I got to altitude, we took off Lake Arrowhead, and we went above 8,000 feet. We were almost at 12,000 feet. I started to get lightheaded and really dizzy, just like what had happened to me when I was in my first near-death experience with the car. And I almost passed out and slumped over the yoke. Instead of a steering wheel, it's a yoke. And as I did, my flight instructor, Lisa, pushed over the yoke, and we went down to below 8,000 feet. And I regained my consciousness, and I went, whoa. And she said, enough flying. We're done for the day. We're flying home to Long Beach. And as I got out of the plane, I was still kind of dizzy and lightheaded. And I got in my car, and people who worked with the sheriff's department or the police department had a little blue line on their car, a special little sticker. And California Highway Patrolman stopped me and said, do you need help? And I said, yes, officer. Something's terribly wrong, and I got to get back to the medical examiner's office there in the Long Beach area. And he said, I'll get you there. You follow me. We'll drive. And he got me to the exit. He said, when I get to the exit, you get off. I got to keep going. Got to the exit, got to the medical examiner's office, where they diagnosed me with severe anemia because they did blood tests. And they sent me to USC Medical Center, where they were going to do a upper and lower GI to see where I was bleeding. And that's when they sent me over there. And I would have my actual second near-death experience on the operating table. They would overdose me with the same medicine that Michael Jackson would have that killed him. And that brought me out of my body. I floated above my body, got to see my body. I got to see the doctor and the nurse. I saw that they were wearing the same kind of shoes, same everything. And they were talking about inappropriate things that they should have never been talking about. Number one, they were married to other people, and they were talking about things they didn't think I could hear. And when I got back into my body, because I'd asked the angel, can I go home now? They said, no, you still haven't fulfilled your purpose and missions in life. And that's when I asked for the reminder. What's my mission and purpose in life? And that would be to learn a simple technique to heal myself and share that with other people. I would come back into my body, then tell the doctor and the nurse. The nurse would leave that hospital, go somewhere else, break off the relationship with the doctor. The doctor would be moved to a different section. And then the doctors would tell me, we don't like what we found. We found something pretty severe, and we want you to take our medicine. If you don't, we think you got 9 months to live. I said, no, if I take your medicine, I know I only have 9 months to live. I'm going to reject your diagnosis and prognosis. I'm going to go to Mexico. I'm going to work with the Gerson Institute and Hulda Clark, and I'm going to find answers that you don't believe in. 3 months later, I would come back from Holder Clark and the Gerson Institute, and they would check me and tell me, gee, we must have made a mistake. We can't find anything wrong with you. And I said, you're now talking to a former medical examiner? You're telling me you made a mistake and you wanted me to take this therapy, which could have killed me? The doctor shut up. The file disappeared. The other doctor died. And the third doctor insisted I could not have healed from the diagnosis that they had given me with anything but what standard medicine had for my therapeutic approach. And I said, I was ready to punch that guy. I said, don't you believe in the biology of belief? And as you believe, you shall achieve. He goes, no, I don't even know what that is. He was the tallest doctor I ever worked with. He was the center for Tulane University basketball in undergrad before he became a medical doctor. I wanted to punch him, but I couldn't raise up my fist above his belly button. I had to leave and go do prayers. And I never went back to that doctor's office again. He said, if you don't take our therapy, you are going to die. I said, if I take your therapy, I will die. So you must understand, if you believe the doctor's diagnosis, then you better follow the doctor's treatment protocol. If you're going to reject the doctor's protocol, then you better find the other alternatives. And my thing is, God. God is the answer. There is no incurable, only people who cannot yet believe. Hence, I started to work with the God side, opened up a church, private membership association, and I have a trust, all dealing with God-centered, alternative, complementary, integrative, and spiritual approaches to healing that humans once remembered but have forgotten. God is the greatest physician, and there is no incurable, only people who cannot believe. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help all those people who are looking for answers and healings and helps from God.
Okay.
So I thank you for today's experience.
I want to ask something real quick. We're at time, but this is a yes or no. Do you feel like you was living in another time through your okay.
Yes.
Okay. I had to ask that question. So we're almost at time, and we like to ask before we close out, is there, from your personal life experiences, from what you've been through, an accident, wake up in the morgue, and just, everything around you, the energy that revolves around you, what advice would you give someone from your personal life experiences that can help them navigate through?
Number one, never give up. Number two, never hate anybody or anything. You are all worthy child of God, and you were sent to this reality because of your choice before you were born. You picked and you chose your life experience. You are to live your life with love, the greatest amount and ability. If you hate, you'll have to reincarnate, and you'll have to come back as the thing you hate. So never do that. And the last thing, never commit suicide. Now, there are people who are going to have to commit suicide because it's already preordained from the other side. But if you have your druthers or your choice, do not commit suicide. Remember, you're a worthy child of God. Choose differently. Don't hate, don't commit suicide, and never give up, never surrender. Love from your heart all the time. And remember that we are just different shades of gray from different realities, times, and spaces. And we've been through this a number of times before. Your job is to bring heaven to earth and love as many people as possible so that you may fulfill your mission and purpose in life. And ladies, it has been a pleasure being with you guys today. I hope that we can do this again. I know I love history and I love geography, and most people have been dumbed down to the point where they don't know the truth. And the biggest thing is, why are you here? Let me share it with you if you don't know, and let me direct you to your mission and purpose in life so that you can actually fulfill the path the divine has for you. And you ladies, this is your path. You are divinely guided spiritual sisters, and to me, you're mishpacha, extended family from the heart. So this is Dr. Scott Robinson. My book and my website are There Are No Lines in Heaven. Come and join us. Learn how to do Einstellen for free. And then if you want a private session, you'll read the instructions on there about how we deal with donations and things like that. And I'm going to have you guys invited the next time we have Einstellen class on a Sunday afternoon, Eastern time. It's at roughly 1:20 in the afternoon Eastern for training. 2 o'clock, we have a group session where you'll meet people from 25 different states and 25 different countries who come to join us and learn this healing method, this ancient healing method called Einstellen, Einstellen, means tuning into the source and asking for help and healing. It's always free, always on a Sunday, every 2 weeks, and it's part of my church. And you guys are invited the next time, January the 11th, 2026. Be there or be square.
All right. So thank you. You actually kind of got into what I was just going to introduce for you, but we do like to give you a chance to participate in what we call shameless plug. So you told us a little bit about the services you offer. Please let our viewers know how they can contact you for those services. If you have anything that you sell, you have books, merch, anything for self-help, development, anything that you want to pitch or any projects that you want to advocate for, you have the floor.
No problem. And remember, Sagittarians don't have the word shameless in their vocabulary. We are just who we are. You can contact me through my website, https:// You are also going to get my phone number, and you can text me there through WhatsApp or through the phone. Area code 760-917-2625. Again, area code 760-917-2625. You can call me or text me. It's actually best that you text me. I know I'm the only doctor that gives everybody their phone number. It's a California number, but I live in Central Florida, just north of Orlando, Florida. So I travel back and forth. It's much easier and cheaper to live here in Florida than it is in California. And I have churches in 4 corners of the United States. I'm working on the 4th corner up in Maine. And I work with doing Einstellen training and one-on-one sessions with people through Zoom. So we do a lot of Zoom sessions, but I periodically travel to Friday Harbor, Washington, Santa Barbara, California. I come down all the way to San Diego. I'm sometimes in Texas. And of course, I'm here locally all over Florida because I travel as many as 5 hours away just driving Florida. And I teach people. I teach at churches. I also teach online. And I'll be teaching doctors this year in 2026 coming up. I will be teaching doctors and healing practitioners 8-hour classes, and you'll come and join us. And there's particular request for donations, but you'll be spending not 1 hour with me. You'll be spending 8 hours and sometimes 12, both in person and online, to learn all the things about prayer, Einstellen, pushing faint matter, getting rid of emotions that don't serve you, and eliminating things through verbal frequencies and a whole slew of things that I only cover in my book, There Are No Lines in Heaven. You'll come and join us, and it'll be an entire weekend. We have it set up so it's near the airport. And remember, contact me through my website, therearenolinsinheaven.com, or contact me through my phone. Text me, 760-917-2625. And I think Healer to be sure is actually my email. HEALER, the number 2, the letter B as in boy, sure, SURE, @gmail.com. And ladies, I think I've covered all the bases.
I think you did too. We want to thank you, Dr. Scott, for tuning in to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast and spitting some knowledge. We all need knowledge and wisdom. And I'm going to say I actually connected with a lot of things that you said. I've actually experienced some things. And I think religion is what is really taught. I believe in God, and when I mean taught, it's sometimes it's not strictly from the church, because if it was based off of the church from me growing up, I wouldn't believe in religion, because the church taught me a
So it's
lot
the
of negative. I
spiritual
learned all
side.
my bad things from church. So,
Right.
um,
But the spiritual side will exist whether religion exists or not.
not
And when you go to heaven, there is no religious basis by which you exist. This is a human thing. Religion is a human-based thing. Spirituality is what we get from God, and what we understand who we really are and what we're really doing here, and why we play this game that we volunteered to play, and that we're all brothers and sisters on this planet. Doesn't matter what we look like. Doesn't matter. We're just wearing clothes. That's the clothes we're wearing for the day or the life. And when you get that, you stop being what evil wants to push buttons about. Oh, you're over here and you're this and you're that. And they want to create evil, warfare, and anger and rage and resentment. And this is where we come and change. No, we're not going to accept that garbage. We're not going to accept what evil wants to make that do. No.
I agree 100%. And I can tell you the last thing I'm going to say before we end, and we're about to end, is I believed in God, but after my incident of my life being almost taken to domestic violence, I'm a believer in God. So there are two different things: is I believe and being a believer. So I want people to know that situation has led me to where we are today.
And you have power, my dear lady. You have tremendous power. And even though Sid is much quieter than you, the fact is the two of you together are united in the Creator's name. And you have power together, the ability to make a difference and change and help other people through either domestic violence of any kind, from a childhood or abuse of any kind, and help people get beyond that so we can forgive, bless, thank, and love, and let go of the evil once and for all.
Because healing,
where this earth. Say again?
Yes. I said because healing is important. Healing is what changes your life. And this is what people don't understand. And that's why we do the work that we do. Is healing is important. We will stay with the mental health that we have built through childhood traumas that lead into adulthood traumas. And that's any kind of life experience. This is bigger than domestic violence. This is any life trauma that has affected our lives that many people hold on to and they will not let go. This is why Sid and I get out and do the work that we do through the podcast, because it's a resource. Healing is a fight against our negativity of the warfare. And that's what people don't understand. Once you heal, positive energy will start to surface right on.
And you know what the first step of healing is? Recognizing you're not the anger, rage, or resentment. That's not who you are. No.
Yeah.
And when you recognize that, you're going to flip the switch and begin the healing process. And from this point forward, you're not going to go over here to the negative and the dark side. You're going to go over here towards the light. And the only thing you need to make sure is you hang around with like-minded souls. You want to be helped and healed? Hang around with like-minded souls.
Yeah, because once you start your healing journey, God is going to change your circle. And I'm going to tell y'all now, before my healing journey, my circle, that was one of the biggest things that was holding me back. Was I was at a different level, but my circle was at a very different, and it wasn't good. But
you had to have a new circle.
Yep. Through this healing journey, God he kept the people that he wanted in my life, and he removed, tons of people, 75%. No, I'm going to say 85% of my circle God removed, and he replaced it with good people such as Sid that has honestly helped change my life. So
thank you, Sid, for making a difference in her life.
Yeah, she definitely has. I love her. That's my sister.
I told you, spiritually, you have that connection. So you were meant to come here to work on, go through what you went through, heal from it, and then help other people do the same thing. You are never to accept anything negative that you do not want. That's the biggest thing. Never accept the negativity. You are here to master this and become one of the masters of this reality. Is it going to be easy? Nobody said it was. But are you going to do it? Because God said, please come here and show me that you can do this. And that's what we're here for. Help one another. In the Creator's name, and whatever we call the Creator, we are children of that Creator. We are all worthy, and we're going to blast out that loving energy till the evil is off this planet.
Amen. And there we go. We want to thank you for tuning into Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. We're going to continue to share life experiences. Ain't that right, Sid?
That's right.
All right. And we will be in a new year, season 5, episode 1. And we're starting it off with Dr. Scott. So happy New Year's, everyone. God bless
Happy
you.
New Year. Happy New Year. And it's in Hebrew, it's Lishana Tova. So happy New Year to everybody in every background, faith, and alignment of reality.
Amen. We'll see you soon, and come like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube. Ain't that right? That's what we want y'all to do. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube. That is free. Help us hit our numbers and get to our numbers, because we put a lot of time into healing. It's beyond the twerking and the shaking and the drama. That's what people like. We want to give you the reality of change and healing and getting the message out that anybody can heal and we can all face our traumas. Y'all have a blessed day.